Welcome, dear readers, to Cover My Ass, where baffling books are reviewed, but not read, by yours truly. My name is Khaki.
And I'm Kay, and remember, we only judge a book by its cover.
And we find ourselves once more amid the towering stacks of your library, the endless rows of books, the piles of well-organized tomes marked by the Dewey Imperial system. And
the shelves of liquor. Sorry. Hi. Good morning, Khaki.
yeah. I've been avoiding those. It sort of feels like drinking seawater.
It's one of those mornings.
It's one of those like Cosmo at 10 a.m. morning.
Yeah.
Well, this is actually kind of appropriate. Come with me, because do you remember how a few weeks ago I told you that I was building a visitor center as kind of a
in the Star Wars launch pod.
Okay, so right at the top of the episode, you've already...
Do you
remember how we were not going to say Star Wars at all?
Oh, in the Starboard launch pod. Oh, you mean in the Starboard launch pod?
Launch pod? I didn't know that there was the launch...
Never mind.
Okay, no, fine. I'm quite accustomed to ignoring it. It was at the time where I hadn't yet seen a Velociraptor, and and before I knew about the glue traps. Mm-hmm. So I thought I'd build...
Your skin's growing back nicely, by the way.
Yeah. The bookworm liver poultices have really been doing the job. And the hoisin sauce.
Oh, good.
Yes, I've been nourishing myself.
I didn't know it had medicinal qualities.
Well, it's mostly the nourishment. The many ducks, if you recall from last week's bloodbath. I built a sort of pretend visitor center. It was more of a book fort I
like book forts. I approve of those.
Yeah, right. And it was as a way to try and trap a Velociraptor. But as we both know, I've befriended Guinevere.
I was going to say they seem to be like eager to come at you these days.
Yeah. And I've figured out the correct body language, so I don't even need to deck myself in feathers anymore.
It doesn't like holding your head steady while moving the rest of your body give you a massive crick in the neck.
Strangely, it's all in the hips. You'd think shoulders, but it's all in the hips. You wiggle that about, and you do the elbow arm flag, the hokey pokey. I'm pretty convinced that our ancestors used the hokey pokey to infiltrate their
Velociraptor colonies.
We've always been told that the dinosaurs went extinct, but there are birds.
Oh,
so
yeah, absolutely.
The dinosaurs didn't go extinct.
Just Google picture of a baby heron.
Oh, yeah, he's all soaked. It's just this monster.
It's just like this tiny little hand-sized pterodactyl. And it's
So now that I've grown comfortable among my new Velociraptor family, and we're getting along well, they appreciate that we can share a meal of duck. I cook mine with hoisin sauce, and they just tear theirs apart once I defrost them in the microwave of your cafeteria.
Very good.
Cantina, one might almost say, risking.
Yes, as long as you don't mess with the distilling apparatus behind the bar, then it should be okay.
I haven't so far, but I've got to say... Is that why you're in the condition that you're in right now?
Well, it's more like the after effects of the cause.
Yeah, okay.
It's like
a knock-on effect.
Yeah, it's one of those like morning after the night before things.
So I've taken the opportunity. A few weeks ago, I also did a bit of theatre with my new Velociraptor family, and we reenacted. Once I gained access to the kitchen, I reenacted the kitchen Velociraptor scene from Jurassic Park. So I've been reading the novelization of Jurassic Park, the film based on a book.
Oh.
I found it in the section. You have a very large section of books that are novelizations of films that are already based on books.
Right, yes.
Very good. That's why
I keep them separate for a good reason.
I thought it was just like an organizational thing, a part of the Dewey Imperial system.
It's the lesser read section of the library.
That's honestly fair. I mean, these novelizations of films based on books are very often for younger readers, and your library is not a child-friendly place.
I suppose not. But
the various pits and trapdoors are easy to jump across if you have long legs like I do.
Yes.
So,
well, that's not the areas that younger people would be allowed into anyway. I mean, they're being the public area of the library.
Is it public area with other people? I haven't seen other people other than you in so long.
No, that's correct. There's a public area of the library.
Yeah, space and time have been weird lately, haven't they?
That's libraries for you.
It's
books for you in general, actually. They have that thing where they time just especially when you're sitting in bed going I'll just finish this paragraph, and then 3 hours later you look at the clock and go how did that happen?
Yeah.
And I have to get up in 3 hours, and it's oh bugger. Well, I'll just finish this chapter.
What works for me is to finish the chapter and read the first page of the next one.
Okay.
Because then my curiosity from where is it going is satisfied, and I have like an idea of how
where the author is going to take the next part of the story.
Yeah, yes. And I can be curious and interested in that, but I could also try to like model it in my head, and that leads to nice, bizarre dreams sometimes.
Oh, very good. So
no, hold on. I was going to tell you about this visitor center that I'm very, very proud of, because it's no longer just a book fort, but based on the descriptions in the novelization of Jurassic Park, the film of the book,
yes,
I've kind of gone all out now. There was a recycling pile that I saw, and I helped myself to those old magazines and newspapers that you had.
Good.
So
that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. And it turns out that you can the Velociraptors they hawk up some pretty vicious bile, but it makes for excellent papier-maché. So behold my papier-maché replica of the visitor center from Jurassic Park, the film of the book.
Oh, fantastic. Are there cocktails?
Oh, no, that's Lord of the Rings. How does the Jurassic Park... It's a dinosaur. Yes. And the doors open, and look, I've got the spiral staircases, and I've even managed to, like, slightly translucent. It's a picture of a Gallimimus, and I'm very proud of what I've accomplished here.
What's a Gallimimus?
Gallimimus is a Vegisaurus, Lex. Vegisaurus.
Oh.
It's a quote from the book, of the film of the book.
Oh, fantastic.
That's why I'm also wearing this white paper-maché suit. It's very uncomfortable.
About that.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable.
It must chafe a little bit in the delicate areas.
I don't really have delicate areas anymore. You live with Velociraptors long enough, and they all have beaks, and you just don't.
How are the Velociraptors taken to the visitor center?
It was tough going at first.
Are they paying customers? Have they figured out the tills yet?
Okay, yeah. So you do have much more experience with Velociraptors than I do. I was expecting them to sort of run and rampage through it, which is cool. Which
mangle
is kind of
the buffet line, tourists are wont to do.
Exactly, but no, they very quickly, like, they discovered aprons. They really like aprons.
Oh, I suppose they're colourful.
They are, but they're super, like, theatrical. So they really enjoy, like, playing these roles.
Making a little show of standing in line, elbowing each other.
Yes.
Like, I suppose that they do not deal very well with someone trying to cut in line.
Oh no!
That's like extra protein for the buffet line when that happens.
That's usually when a duck sort of wanders in, thinking, "Is it safe yet?" Oh, those poor ducks.
The thing with ducks is I find that their opinion of me generally is very dependent on whether I have bread or not.
You know, you shouldn't feed them bread.
I know.
I mean, you've learned that, right?
I did need quite an impressive high-pressure washer to get the patio clean again after, like, bread pudding and ducks. Not a pleasant sight.
Yeah, because, and this is a bit of a PSA for our readers at home, that they don't have the ability to digest bread and gain any nourishment from it. So if you want to go and feed the ducks, you can bring some lettuce, and they love that just as much.
I suppose that makes sense. Yeah.
It's much more. Yeah, the problem is that a lot of and they eat their fill in duck ponds, but they're actually like their bellies are full, but they're starving of malnutrition. I wonder if maybe gluten is the word to look at, because no, I don't want to assume that. Obviously, we have friends.
The duck would like to speak to the manager.
Gluten intolerance is a real thing, and it's a really good development that it's finally become known that some people suffer from that. Like, I know people who have just been...
they love it, the fact that everything, like, you can get gluten-free options for everybody, but like 9 out of 10 people who claim to be gluten intolerant these days are just like, want to talk to the manager.
I apologize for cutting you off there, because that is entirely fair. People who are biologically tolerant of gluten, you can just eat it. Yeah. It's fine. It's nourishing in the same way that, as a person of some arguable Asian descent, I'm slightly lactose intolerant, but I can take lactase pills.
It doesn't work for gluten, though.
No. That is more, because I don't think it's a matter of, like, lacking certain enzymes that you can just... And I love that this is the case. Like, when I take a lactase pill, it doesn't, like, suppress some kind of biological function or whatever. It just puts lactase enzymes in my tummy. And
they'll be like, oh, lactose, here we go.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you don't make enough on your own, store-bought is fine.
Absolutely.
So, our visitor center, I say our, obviously it's your library, but it's the visitor center, and the papier-maché is largely of my own construction, together with my new Velociraptor family. And I think we're actually onto something. Like, we're all playing multiple roles, where sometimes we play customers, or sometimes we play the vendors. But I think that we're ready to accept some actual guests into your library. I think it would be safe.
What are you using for currency?
Much like the best science fiction novels that we've read, the economy is based largely on mime.
Mime is a terrible thing to taste.
That's not even the quote, is it? I mean, I would speak out on behalf of our friends in the various physical arts, such as mimes, but I have a crippling fear of marionettes, and I'm afraid that mimes and clowns are just too close.
Suppose they have that same visual aesthetic to them.
Yes, they have the Pierrot, the one little tear makeup down the eye. I'm not a friend of the mimes. We're just going to have to crash into it. What do we have in store for our readers this week?
Right, this week's book is Robert E. Mills' famous Starfighters.
Starfighters. Now, this is my kind of cover. For the readers at home, if you look down at your podcasting device, you should be seeing the cover of this week's book, Starfighters, by Roger E. Mills,
Robert E. Mills.
Robert. Pardon me, Mr. Mills. And it's a doozy. Those of us who have any kind of interest in science fiction will immediately recognize it because it's such an obvious knockoff of some of our favorite science fiction. We have
You just look at the lady in white. I mean, that's like Xanadu all over. It's like
right. Yes. Yeah.
Well, no huge sword, obviously, but like the proper like laser pistol. Let's call it a laser pistol.
The pew pew.
One of the things that I really like about it's like if you look at the character at the bottom left.
Oh, he's such a knockoff. He's got the bangs and he's got the little chin strap.
I know, but look at him. This book was like published in the early 80s, maybe late 70s. And he looks just like Ewan McGregor does. It's like almost prophetical. I mean, this cover was drawn well. I mean, I think he was born at that time, but he was like just a wee bairn at the time. And so there's no way to predicting that's how Ewan McGregor would look at a later point.
Now I'm thinking of Ewan McGregor as a wee baby just throwing up two middle fingers because he's already practicing for Velvet Goldmine. He's flashing his little baby Willy around.
Yes.
And covering himself in glitter. And then we have the helmeted chap on the right.
Yes, like the aerodynamic bicycle helmet. Like it wouldn't be invented until early 2000s when like bicyclists figured that they got like 0.1% extra power
if they cosplay a sperm cell.
By regulating the airflow of their bodies with helmets like that. It's ridiculous.
I'm so surprised. I'd never heard of Starfighters before.
No.
It's one of those books where it was clearly intended just to cash in on the popularity of stuff like Buck Rogers and Battlestar Galactica, you know, the big sci-fi franchises of the 70s. It even says stuff. Let me see what it says over here. Red Ryan, Nilla, and Dan battle to free the stars from
Lord Blorg's
icy grip. There's no Lord Blorg in there. There's no like these characters just essentially don't appear. It's just a fluff on the cover.
It's like Mr. Mills must have just been face palming himself into an early grave just because to see what they made of his book.
Oh, like so. Yeah. I was going to agree with you there because writers in that era, like they produce the entertainment that
they have zero input about their the front cover.
Right?
Yeah. Even these days, it's like writer writes book, publisher commissions someone to create a cover, and if you are a writer in good standing, then occasionally you get to pull I really don't like this one. Can you please do another one? I suppose that A-list authors get a little bit more clout in that regard.
Oh, but, because, I mean, they have their publicist and they have their editor who's working on their behalf.
Generally speaking, no.
Those artists are not getting paid a lot either.
I have no idea how much they make, but I can't imagine it's more than a few grand at most.
I mean, it kind of depends on the number of copies that the publisher expects to sell.
Well, I know that the artist who did the European release of Discworld, he was like
those are sublime.
Yeah, brilliant.
Those are extraordinary. But in part because sometimes they're very inaccurate. Like what was he? Four Eyes. The foreign character.
Tourist, yes, from
the original tourist.
Yes.
Was depicted as having four eyes, whereas the joke was actually that. Probably that he had glasses, except Sir Terry Pratchett never said it.
Oh, he later came back on that. No, he specifically said that he actually had four eyes.
Oh.
The joke was that everybody would think that he had glasses, but
I fell for that. Oh, good old Sir Terry, still pulling our leg
from the grave,
from the great and glorious beyond. So this book, I mean, to call it derivative is is very generous.
Oh, absolutely.
It's an absolute rip-off of so many different things.
It's like if I don't just rip off one thing, but I rip off all the things, maybe someone won't notice.
Because this was an era where spontaneously, out of nowhere, these special effects-driven science fiction products became very popular. We had Battlestar Galactica, and we had, what was the one with the moon flying away?
I don't think I ever saw that one.
Moonbase 1.
Oh,
yeah,
no, never saw that one.
It didn't make a lot of sense either. But they had theremins and they had flare trousers.
Blake 7,
yeah. Where eventually, because there was such a low budget production, voice actors were cheaper than regular actors, so they wind up with like 2 or 3 computer characters because then they'd only have to pay voice actors to do those.
Wow, I had no idea about that.
Or Red Dwarf.
Well, that was a bit later.
Also a very low-budget production, but they managed to get the budget because they convinced the BBC studios, we can film at night. Our crew are willing to film at night, and then we can turn the cafeteria into a set. And then we can,
just use that. Yeah,
we can just use that. They
use very limited sets. Yeah, it's the sleeping quarters and the cafeterias and something else, and just like a few stuff that they mostly nick from Doctor Who, I think.
So this was a golden era of sci-fi, unprompted, just out of nowhere. People were just really interested in spaceships and westerns and space.
It went like from something visceral like Jaws, something real that's like grounded in the world, and it's about sharks, and suddenly space.
Yeah,
out of nothing,
and it's all fantastical and earthy and lived in, and there was just no precedent for it. It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And this book, Starfighters by Roger E. Mills, was just a huge
trying to ride that wave, really.
Snag as much of the flotsam and jetsam and sea foam.
What's the last one called again? There's flotsam, jetsam, and one other one. Flotsam is stuff that is floating on the water.
Okay.
Jetsam is stuff that came from ships, so that's washed up on the beach. And then there's one which is sunk and is lying on the bottom of the ship, but I can't remember what it's called.
Treasure.
No.
Yeah, I can see you thinking.
Yes.
These clicking sounds
Derelict,
are you
that's the one.
Derelict.
Yes, that's the third one.
But derelict is also applied to like a crewless ship just drifting on the sea.
Flotsam is not the floating float. So flotsam is the sunken one. Derelict is the floating one. I know.
That's confusing.
It is. You'd think that it's like...
That's really confusing. Hey.
Oh, no, wait. No, flotsam refers to a sunken vessel whose goats floated to the sea.
Oh my God, now I'm imagining goats in flotation vests. Escaping from the hold of the Titanic. I wonder how that will apply in space when eventually our species makes it out into the great beyond of the solar system. Yes. I mean, you're going to wind up in this situation. It's very dangerous out there.
I mean, there's whole genres of sci-fi attributes that exactly that kind of thing. It's like finding a derelict ship and attaching your own beacon to it to claim it as
powerful one.
Yeah, to claim it as yours.
We're talking effectively about space piracy, much like one of the characters on the cover, who is essentially a space pirate called Apollo Golightly. Obviously, a bit of a derivative of Battlestar Galactica and a little bit of James Bond in there.
More like Bond girl, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. He's a bit of a space slut, which I like. I have a type.
It's not a Victorian magic slut this time, but it's a space slut.
No, that was Alvin, the sorceress slut. That's from episode 19, which we titled, and I can't believe that we titled an episode Orson Scott Card's Gay Razzmatazz.
Yes.
No, he's charismatic, and he's
a swashbuckling rogue, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got more mouth than is good for him. It's all sort of bullshit stuff, He did the zebra run in less than 4 parsecs. It's like, what are we talking about? It's like, oh, come on. This writer is just, it is so much.
He doesn't know what
bullshit.
A parsec is. He doesn't know that it's actually a measure of
distance, not time.
It seemed like one of those books that was edited as it was being written. So rather than revisions on the previous chapters, there would be corrections in later chapters.
Oh yes,
like the chapter where there was all that description of superluminal physics, and that when you approach the sea barrier,
they were like retconning it like within the book itself. You don't even have to wait for the sequel. It's just like,
I got to say, I love that. I love a book that evolves as you read it.
Mr. Mills himself was like, if I just like write this paragraph in, then that'll be fine. Yeah, I didn't consider about
how the zebra run, I think it was called, so known because of the striations through space, because of the various gravitational singularities there, which do indeed warp time space.
Yes.
So being able to, it doesn't make sense to record it in terms of objective time because...
I think that's a little bit too much, not retconning, but like red-splaining, what do you want to call it?
Red-splaining, that's a great word.
Well, it's actually, it's like, if you recall Chapter 4, it was called that because the run to Ice Station Zebra.
Oh, it was planet. That explains.
Remember, it had the massive planetary gun on it, which was a threat to everything that came within range of the thing.
I misread that. I thought it was. Planetary gun. I thought that was a planet-killing gun, like a gun that could kill a planet.
That's ridiculous. Who would ever come
No,
up with
it was part of the Strategic Defense Initiative. You know, that had a nickname, but it doesn't come to mind right away. So I thought that Ice Station Zebra was one of these mobile planet-killing platform. You clearly interpreted it much better than I did. So it was so it was a defense weapon.
Well, defense, it's like, basically everybody who comes here is like, you better like not mess with us, otherwise we're going to blow you out of the sky.
So that explains why it was powered by the planet's core. See, I thought they were just going from place to place and like absorbing the cores of the local solar system.
I mean, you can't move something planetary sized around from one star system to the other. That's ridiculous.
Absolutely impossible. And certainly like using the components of a solar system as a fuel source, sending a blast across the galaxy that's somehow visible from planetary surfaces.
Don't get me started
light
on
years
that.
away. No, utter nonsense. So no, this makes a lot more sense. Thank you for the correction.
Sometimes we miss these things.
So Ice Station Zebra wasn't connected to the Strategic Defense Initiative. Okay.
No, it's more like a smuggler's hideout, a collection of scum and villainy, the likes of which you would never find anywhere in the galaxy.
Because it was part of the galactic jackery.
Oh, yeah.
A word that...
They made a bit of an ass of that, didn't they?
So jackery is a word I learned recently, and I believe that I brought it up during one of the lost episodes that we don't acknowledge existed anymore because technology failed us, and none of us want to burden our readers with the incredible tragedy of lost episodes. Yes. But jackery is a word for like a rebellion by the common man. Like it was a French word, Jacques, basically common people, John Q. Public, Jacques Bonhomme in French, rise up. That's called jackery. So we have the galactic jackery, or for short, the galackery, which is not such a successful
contraction.
Spoonerism.
No.
Well, is it No, it's not spoonerism.
Galackery. No.
The galackery, who are all that stands against the sweeping Strategic Defense Initiative. So that's where Apollo Golightly, we first meet him in this hive of scum and villainy.
He's in this little cafeteria in like
a
rather mixed crowd of general lowlives, including
his friend Sachquaka.
Oh, okay. That's like a very small quokka from Space Canada.
Space Canada, But they're
vicious little fucker though.
Oh yeah. They're totes besties.
Let him near your finger and he'll rip it right off.
I thought it was so cool that they that you had this space alien who was described not as being like wolf-like or tiger-like, but that it was a big hairy little quokka,
with this big smile on his face, which he can like hide the
vicious like those teeth. I mean, it's not carnivorous, is it? The real world.
I mean, you don't need like to be carnivorous to rip someone's fingers off.
No, exactly.
One at a time.
There's a frightening number of scenes in the book where that happens.
Yeah, anytime someone reaches for his drink, he's got this like big bowl like drink on the counter and he's sitting there right next to it and occasionally lapping it.
We do the same.
And somebody like reaches out for it and there's like next thing there's like a flash of light and suddenly there's a limp on the floor, and in this case it's just a finger and it's just like being ripped off by this cute little thing who's just like now menacing looking at you over his bowl of liquor.
Bless. I was such a fan of such Quokka, especially that he's not ashamed to ride around on Apollo's shoulder. He's got a little saddle up there.
Yeah, and he's just like And if he like goes in the wrong way, bites him on the ear, and it's just like
just gives him a little nibble. Apollo seems to like it.
I think he's into that sort of thing.
Yeah, they've got a little life debt going on, but we sort of meet him because we're actually following a plain farm boy from a planet recently orphaned, very very tragic. That's Starbuck Rogers, bit of a double ripoff there, as we can all see.
Yes,
who's recently come into the possession of two rather funky robots called Tweaky and Dr. Theopolis.
Yes,
and Tweaky was apparently charged with the secret mission that even Dr. Theopolis can't convince him to abandon.
Yes,
yeah. So they're they've linked up with a local hermit. A wizard called Adama Adamant. Yeah, saying that 10 times fast.
Yeah, well,
who turns out to be an erstwhile war hero.
Yeah, and they're seeking travel off-planet, like away from Ice Station Zebra.
Yeah, which it made no sense to me in my initial reading because I thought that Ice Station Zebra was the exact same as Guantanamo Base.
Yes.
The mobile space station with the...
Guantanamo Base is much more tropical than Ice Station Zebra is. So we have to jump back a little bit in the story at this point.
I think that'd be safest.
Yes, because he gets these two robots, Twiki and Dr. Theopolis, who've crash-landed on Ice Station Zebra after their craft has been shot down by the planetary gun. And, of course, Starbuck's foster parents have been murdered by the faceless enemies, the Optios, uniformed guys with face covering helmets and everything.
Also a very popular trope, anonymize your enemy, like they're part of the Strategic Defense Initiative.
Yeah, you can just shoot them off and nobody really feels for them. Nobody even knows if they're robots or not. And
that was confusing.
They got those weird little lights moving in their visors.
Yeah, the one red light that moves side to side in a sort of scanning pattern.
Absolutely.
And they call everybody Michael. It's so weird.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Michael. I can't do that.
He hooks up with Adama after he finds his foster parents murdered by the Optios.
Yeah, a local, essentially a samurai. Well, the way that they're described him, he's spiritual, he's reserved, he's a master of space martial arts.
More like a renounced samurai turned Zen monk.
I suppose that Mr. Mills might have been inspired, like so many people were, by the period dramas of Japanese television at the time, the Jidaigeki. Which are essentially samurai period dramas that were on television all the time. So the sort of values of self-sacrifice and humility and strength in the face of adversity are things that Adama Adamant are trying to teach to Starbuck Rogers.
Yeah.
Not very successfully, I should add.
Well, youth and bashfulness will win out of old age and skill all the time or something like that.
That saying seems to change every time that you say it.
Well,
it's one of those fractal sayings.
I tend to adapt it to the situation.
And that adaptability is something that Apollo Golightly is famous for. So I like these sort of fundamental story, these hero's journey stories that are the essential, like a monomyth, stories that we've told for centuries. I should say stories in the West that we've told for centuries because of the continuity from the Greek and Roman sense of drama and heroism. And different cultures, of course, have different ways of approaching that. But this idea that our hero always starts as someone who is more ambitious than capable, and over the course of their adventures meets characters who represent qualities that they themselves lack
and need to acquire
and learn from, and vice versa. They also they are in possession of virtues that they don't consider particularly valuable, but that fill a void in the lives of the people that they encounter. He encounters Apollo Golightly, someone who is closed off to new relationships and trust and self-sacrifice, despite the fact that those are values that he, in his youth, held very closely. And it takes Starbuck's optimism to bring that.
Yeah, it takes him a while to break through the cynical veneer of.
And we don't think he's ever going to make it there. Yeah.
No, absolutely. That comes back later towards the end of the book, but
yes, that's more prevalent in the conflict with.
Yes. Cue an end of chapter scene change to the quarters of Count Shaitan, who is having a strong argument with Commander Eve. She's disposed of rather quickly.
Oh yes, because he sort of garrots her from afar. He has the telepathic garrote with the...
it's like this little whip that
he can make it sort of float in the air.
Yeah, he makes his whistly sounds and the whip just shoots through the air and obeys his commands.
Yes, that's right, while his mohawk glows.
Yes, that's the one.
Count Shaitan.
So Commander Eve lasts about 3 paragraphs into the chapter.
I say she left an impression. She was very charismatic.
At which point Captain Artemis is promoted to commander.
Someone who is destined to do very well under Count Shaitan. He's capable. He's unquestioning of his commander's
to do
status.
as he is told.
Yeah.
He has a lightning career.
It's impressive to see him over
mainly
the course
due
of this
to
book.
Count Shaitan's short temper.
Oh yeah, it goes through who else we have? We have Lieutenant Harkonnen. We have
Harkonnen.
We have Captain Baltar. Which other villains does Count Shaitan?
He has a bit of an argument with Dr. Z, who is thrown into a pit of some sort of tentacled, toothy monster.
Oh, it was horrible, and it would be slowly digested over the period of 10 days. 10 days sounds pretty bad. It's not something that you'd expect a monologue to mention.
That's how it goes.
You know, in some of the fan fiction, it turns out that because Dr. Z had a rocket pack, he actually made it out of the what was it called, the Carlas pit.
Yes, the Carlos pit.
Yeah, and he had a quite a successful spin-off career in the comics. Okay. So Count Shaitan, who's under the command of the unseen Lord Saris, which is one of those figures like he's the supreme power. He's the architect of the
behind the screen scenes.
But we don't see him in this book. Like it's probably something that was being saved for the sequels that we finally catch a glimpse of him, and then maybe in the second sequel he'd become a big character, and then maybe 20 years later they do some prequels where finally we get the unnecessary backstory.
Fortunately, this series never got that far.
No. So I like that the focus was on Count Shaitan. And like Shaitan, also known as a Shai Hulud, also known as the Maker. Yeah. Right? I mean, he had this little prayer that everyone had to recite. I will not fear.
Yes.
Fear is the little death that causes...
I will allow fear to pass through me, and when that passes through me, only I will remain.
Only I will remain.
Yes, that's the one.
And then everybody changes their trousers because they did a little wee-wee. Because he is very... I've got to say, like... He was described as an intimidating figure, and as the details progressed, it did not disappoint. I thought it was just a dude in a helmet to begin with, but then he described the length that he was up to 400 feet long.
The breathing apparatus.
The breathing apparatus that resulted in essentially a furnace of fire being blasted out. Like he was most of the length of any ship that he was on.
Sacrifice of 1,000 souls every day just to keep him alive.
Yeah, rough stuff out there.
Yeah, under command of Lord Saris, who would
dissolved the local municipalities. Yeah. And the planetary powers, and essentially replaced everyone with Optios.
Who basically rule the areas directly.
Was it Optios?
Optios, yes.
Optios, yeah.
Well, one Optio, two Optios, I suppose, two Optio. Actually, I think it's Latin derivative, so it might be
Optios. Sounds
Optios.
Greek.
It's a blatant rip-off of Roman rank structure, where an Optio is someone who commands 80 men.
Versus
a centurion, which covers...
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes.
Oh, that was a really good reference that I didn't get.
It was a bit obtuse.
Yeah, so it's 4/5 of a centurion. That's fucking great. Yes. Yeah, no wonder they had the light going in the middle, and the shiny helmet, and the funky silver skirts.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, when you saw the senior Optio, that was so good. So our heroes, Starbuck Rogers and Apollo Golightly and Sash Quokka and Tweaky and Dr. Theopolis and Adama Adamant.
He was adamant about having to leave Ice Station Zebra.
And off in their spaceship, the Viper Mark II. Yep. Off to Guantanamo Base.
Base, yes.
Yes, that's right.
Well, they end up at Guantanamo Base. That's not where they were going. They were going to the
home of the Galacary.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where they were originally heading. But on their way over there, they got waylaid and ended up accidentally at Guantanamo Base.
Where they just sort of lucked into rescuing a princess that just happened to be...
they defeat a few Optios, and it turns into the standard swashbuckling adventure movie, like, you know, invading the opposing castle and doing the whole thing.
Through pluck and ingenuity.
Masking themselves, stealing a few Optio uniforms, and that's all where the whole covered faceplate thing comes in brilliantly.
It's really handy,
You just wander around there and nobody's going to recognize that, hey, that's not Dave from accounting. And just someone tells you to do something, you go by your command. All right, and then you go off and do your own thing anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any real structure. Well, it was still under the command of Dr. Z at the time. He hadn't met his terrible fate in the Carlos pit.
It was like he was still running the research development part of Guantanamo
Now, Count
Base.
Shaitan and what did we say? Adama Adamant. They turn out to have.
They've had a past.
The student has become the master.
They have a bit of an argument about that.
They have a very feeble knife fight.
Like a monkey knife fight, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the slow blade penetrates the shield, but it's kind of pathetic.
But they do that weird thing where they grasp each other by the wrist and then like hold onto each other while they like have a stabby fight.
Kind of suggestive. Like Apollo Golightly was certainly into it.
Well, yes. Well, he's watching it from a distance, and like, of course, like
from a safe distance across an open clearing, while they're under fire by the faceless Optios
who are hunting them back to their ship.
They can just sort of stand around and like not be struck by any of these. What do we call them? Laser gun, las guns. That's a
las guns. What's the name of the princess again? It escapes me.
Ash Gordon.
Princess Ash.
Princess Ash,
Let's go with that. They've managed to rescue Princess Ash, which they didn't even know was being held there.
Yeah, it was pure coincidence. A senior figure in the Galactaries, she turns out to be.
The one who sent Twiki on his mission. Twiki finds out that the princess is held prisoner here on Guantanamo Bay. Twiki puts a command override on Starbuck Rogers' ship, the Viper, and decides he's not going to allow them to leave until they rescue Princess Ash.
Now they have a new mission. That's why they have to disguise themselves as
Optios. Make their way through Guantanamo Base, rescue Princess Ash.
Who was so cool, and she was so grateful. And I understand that you've really taken time out of your showing excellent management skills by trying to understand the point of view of the people whom she was kind of leading, because they were sorely in need of leadership.
Well, they did manage to get to her cell and break her out without any of her leadership,
which she deeply appreciated. And she praises their skills, and she ensures that whenever a mission arises that benefits from the particular capabilities of Apollo or Starbuck, she assigns them to it. You're in charge of this now. I believe in you. Go.
Yeah, she was
She's
less...
a very affirming figure.
Well,
I really like that.
She had some choice things to say about the Viper, which were not exactly flattering.
Which were very flattering, and
They managed to, slip their way out of Guantanamo Base, watched by Count Chayton, who's going haha, everything is going exactly to plan.
Yes!
You plant the homing device on the Viper.
Yes.
Turns out that all these hard-fought battles to escape the Optios were just basically a massive setup to give them the feeling that they were being persecuted and just allowing them to escape, allowing our plucky heroes to lead the Strategic Defense Initiative back to Ice Station Zebra.
The surprising home of the Galactic Jackery.
Yeah. Bringing the Guantanamo Base into the range of Ice Station Zebra's planetary gun.
That's right! Yes, this is another one of those scenarios, and we've had a few of those happening in Cover My Ass so far, where our plucky, under-equipped, outnumbered rebels recognize that they really don't stand a chance of a straight-up assault against... This is a trope that we saw in the 70s and 80s in this huge wave of science fiction epics that were all sort of based on a plucky
underdog
dedicating all of their military assets to a one-on-one straight fight with the far superior, economically stable enemy.
Right, who just only attribute only assign a very small fraction of their force to this assault because they're obviously easily capable of handling this.
Yeah. And through their hubris being defeated, then somehow this one battle, and this is such a stupid trope that you throw everything you've got into one battle that affects maybe 1% of your adversary's forces,
and then suddenly you've got them on the run.
Call that a win. You've got, versus what they do here, which is much more guerrilla tactics. Causing a little bit of damage, the war of attrition. Make sure that every engagement that you have costs them more than it costs you.
Absolutely, significantly more.
Because they can afford to lose people and assets, and you can't.
Yes.
Until you can eventually lure them into a trap where you have your own super weapon that you built. And then
you blast the Guantanamo Base out of the sky with the planetary weapon gun of Ice Station Zebra, creating a new dust belt, which can undoubtedly be mined for lots of profit.
It was immediately mined by the in the after credits. What a weird thing in a book to have an after credit sequence. Did you notice how
it happens?
But it was sort of glued onto the back of the book. After all the thank yous, there was still a couple of notes on there where we saw Count Shaitan, who was in his escape pod spinning through the universe. I'm spinning. Who eventually got rescued so that he could start the construction of Guantanamo Base 2.0. Yeah. And it ended with a very perfunctory medal dedication
leaving
ceremony.
Our plucky heroes to be celebrated in their victory. I think Sasquatch really got the fact that he got a medal that was twice the size that he was a bit
adorable. Yeah, he was so proud of it.
Oh, absolutely. He was he couldn't even carry it, but he was just
he's a plucky little. He probably glued it onto the back of Dr. Theopolis and made him carry it around for him.
Headcanon accepted.
I've got to say, for something that was so derivative of products that we really, really enjoyed.
Oh, it was still very enjoyable.
Just looking at the Omega board that we have here now, what do we see? We see Dune, Commander Eve. What was that from?
That was obvious reference to Battlestar Galactica. It was where Commander Adama, Commander Adam, Commander Eve.
Oh, that's right.
Just gender swap it and turn the names around.
Now I get it.
Same with Captain Artemis, Captain Apollo. It's Artemis being Artemis being Apollo's twin, twin.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, twin sister.
Good. So I appreciate the symmetry that he had, because you had Captain Artemis and Apollo Golightly, and you had.
Oh no, it was like absolutely ripping everything off left, right, and center.
What a good book! How do we review this book?
Oh,
I mean, it's sort of. I mean, what's the theme here? We've got sequels, we've got rip-offs, we've got derivatives. Like, what's the rip-off number?
He called it episode 4 out of the 6 that he was going to release. I don't know why he started with 4.
I've no idea.
I'll give it 4 out of 6.
We're just not acknowledging 7 and 8 and the potentially upcoming 9. Okay, that's fine.
There's been talk about that for years.
Yeah, like the best we can expect is the officially licensed sequel novels about General North. Again,
lots of hopeful fans.
No, we don't appreciate my little anagram there.
I didn't get it.
North. Okay, you try and make an anagram for fraud. I dare you. I double dog dare you. Speaking of reviews, we would love to hear what you thought, whether you listened or not. We would love it if you left a review on your favorite podcasting app, or if you tell a friend, because while we love being your dirty little secret, if you tell a friend, something magical might happen, like all of these colorful little notes on the board coming to life into a giant flying bird that lights on fire and that brings magic back into the world.
Yes,
that's entirely
possible. That sounds fantastic.
Yes,
like the phoenix rising from the notes.
So what do we have in store for our readers next week?
Next week's book is by Charles J. Barret. It's American Bottom Archaeology. Contribution to the cultural history of the Mississippi River.
Thank you for joining us at Cover My Ass, where baffling books are reviewed but not read by yours truly. My name is Khaki.
And I'm Kay. And remember, we only judge a book by its cover.